Okay. Good evening and welcome to this evening's meeting of the Woodbury County Zoning Commission. Today's date is March 27th, 2018, and at time is 6:13. Tonight's meeting will be audio taped and minutes will be prepared. In respect to all parties, we ask those present turn off cell phones or set to vibrate. Those in attendance are asked to legibly complete the attendance sheet up on the front table. I would like to take a moment to review the procedures the Commission will follow tonight. First, the Commission will handle the normal housekeeping agenda items, and for each application on the agenda, I will open the public hearing on the item. The Planning and Zoning staff will then present the staff report, including the staff recommendation. Any letters or other communication received from the public prior to the hearing will be entered into the record. The applicant will then have the opportunity to present his or her case and respond to the staff report. Next, we will have comments from the public. If you would like to speak either in support of or against the application, you must come to the microphone. Please first state your name and address for the record. All interested parties shall be heard, but repetitious comments should be avoided. Repetitious or irrelevant comments may be ruled out of order by the chair. I ask that you remain respectful and courteous with your comments at all times. After all public comments have been heard, the staff and applicant may make a closing statement. The hearing shall then be closed by motion and vote. Thereafter, no further comments from the staff, public, or applicant may be heard unless asked for by the Commission. The Commission shall then deliberate the case and may ask questions of the applicant, the staff, or any party offering testimony. However, such questions do not reopen the hearing for additional comments from the public unless so requested or approved by the Commission. The Commission will then formulate and vote on a motion. The motion will typically either grant or deny the requested application. Any Commission member who has an ex parte communication to place in record of this meeting should do so prior to the beginning of the deliberation of the respective agenda item. With that being said, first item on the agenda is any citizen wishing to be heard regarding a non-agenda item. Do you have a non-agenda item?
Yes.
Okay, please come to the microphone and state your name and address, please.
My name is James Williams, 1730 162nd Street, Lawton.
Okay.
I contacted your office and then talked to Dan. My wife and I wanted to put up a small wind generator just for emergency use.
Okay.
These are commercially available and generally mount on a pipe. And Dan went through and told me that evidently I had to get a conditional use permit, go through and describe everything that I wanted to do, make the application, go through notification of neighbors and everything else. This is not much larger than a lawn ornament, and I just didn't see the necessity to go through that much of a procedure on something like that. It's about a 400 watt, commercially available ones are about 400 watts. They, as I say, mount on a pipe, and I don't know. I can't think that there'd be over 6 feet in diameter for the propeller, and the generator is quite small. Anyway, I just wanted to bring it up to the Commission that we should probably look at having some facility for being able to put in something like this without all
Yeah.
Yeah.
All the procedures. Can you tell me a little bit about the height? How tall is what the wind turbine that you're talking about?
The overall height of the
I'm not sure because I haven't been able to find a lot of information on mounting it. I would guess less than 20 feet and as I say, about a 6 foot diameter propeller on it.
Okay, so it sounds like the majority of our ordinances are probably for the big commercial units. They're not for the little ones. I think
Yes.
they're probably regulated more because of line of sight, and if there's a lot of them have lighting on them, that could be confusing to airplanes and things like that. So that's probably why it went directly to that. Do you guys want to comment or make any statements?
Yeah, our table 3.3-4, which we use for our land use, under the utility section there, it does enumerate in there that the private use wind turbines are under there. And but we don't have a whole lot of direction in terms of maybe a smaller scale, as this ordinance came out in 2008, and
Right.
I don't have data on when these consumer ones have become available, but at this point in time, the way to permit that would follow the conditional use unless we research and find a procedure to add that to maybe an allowed use possibly in our zoning districts.
Right. The other thing that we have too that we have to consider is, do we want, you live out on the country,
Yes.
you have no neighbors nearby.
We've got 5 acres, there's another 2-acre plot next to us,
Okay.
and then right on down the road.
Okay, I think where the problem is that we might come into at some point in time is, what if the next neighbor wanted one, and what if the next neighbor wanted one, and they're getting bigger and they're getting smaller, and you know, it might be something we need to look at because there's size limitations to it. Can you imagine if we don't have that designated to a particular area? Somebody in town would want to do that. It could be that we have a whole town full of these little wind generators in there and people don't like them. Maybe they don't like them. So we're trying to look at every instance as they come available. And like Dan said, that's the best way that we can handle it, is through conditional use. You know, maybe there's something else that we can look at it in the meantime, in the interim, because they're relatively new again to the market.
Yes.
And we're seeing that. Do you know when you want to install something like this, or do you have like a deadline?
We were talking about it,
Okay.
and the first thing that I wanted to do is go through the county and see what I had to do.
We appreciate
before I
that.
would invest a lot of money.
Thank you very much. We appreciate that, because we don't want to be the bad guys either. Trust me, we just want to protect all of our people.
I know
Yes.
when these regulations were written too, that was something there wasn't even in there regarding towers, and that was new at the time. And like I said, it maybe needs to be looked at, expanded, or addressed in a different avenue, whether it's, you know, maximum height compared to buildings.
Right. Right.
You know, 'cause if you're talking 20 feet, you know,
Like,
what's the accessory building height on that? What are you in, ag residential? or
residential.
ag reservation?
Ag residential.
Ag residential, do you know what the accessory structure height is?
Heights are,
45 feet, I believe.
so this is considerably smaller than Morton Building.
I've looked into
Or-
those too, and we were looking at between 12 and 14 foot, the ones that we were looking at.
Okay.
So they're not that tall.
No, they're not. Just from the supporting structure on them, they couldn't be very tall,
Right.
because you'd have to guy in and everything else if they got up to do that kind of.
So it would be interesting to look into that, I think. Maybe we need to,
And when that was written, that maybe was addressing the taller, even though it's still private use, might have been.
yeah, they were taller back then. They're getting smaller all the time.
Right, right. They're being more home user friendly, because I think at the time when we looked at this, at the time they were so cost prohibitive that we thought, okay, this isn't going to be a problem. And the reason why we have conditional use permits is also to help us see that, okay, we have something going on out in the county. We need to reevaluate what our zoning ordinances are so that we can accommodate that event, such as your wind turbines. So that's kind of our mechanism for that too, is so that we can kind of watch and let's see what kind of problems we might have that we have to adapt to. So we appreciate you coming here. At this point in time, do you want to just stay in communication with us, or what are you
Yeah, that's fine.
asking? Okay,
I wanted to bring up the possibility of building it into the code,
okay,
and I'll leave it in your hands.
okay, that sounds good. Yeah, absolutely, we appreciate your comments. Yeah, please stay in touch with us.
Thank you.
We'd love to hear more about, you know, your project,
Okay.
okay? Really appreciate that. Thank you.
Anything else you need?
Do we know how to get a hold of you?
I've got my email on here and my telephone number. Dan, if you've still got my email and telephone number.
Excellent. Yes, please, by all means. We
All right.
appreciate your comments.
All right,
Thank
thank
you
you.
so much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, second item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of the Commission's February 26, 2018 meeting. This is March still, isn't it?
On page 4, bottom paragraph, it's where Tom Bride stated there could be a use for zoning districts that would fill the void between light industrial and general commercial. I don't know if that's what I said. It's, what was meant was the construction yard, if there was something else that could be classified as a definition, not creating a new zoning district, but for a small construction yard that wouldn't be considered light industrial, maybe
Right.
it's only 4 people or something. That was, I guess, what I was referring to at that point.
Okay, so at this point, do you want us to amend
So-
that to more accurately
I
portray?
guess, yeah, like I said, because I wasn't looking to create a different zoning district, just the definition of
Another line item.
construction
Or
yard.
yeah.
It's either a big operation or, you know, it's a home business or a, construction yard.
Right.
And there's nothing that fell in between for a definition of, not a home business, because you might have 3, 4 employees, but it's not the typical
Construction.
yard
Commercial,
that would
huge.
require to be in light industrial. I guess that was the only comment that I had. So, yeah, that would be revamped to word that.
Clarification, okay.
Yeah, because I don't feel we need a new
No,
zoning
district?
district.
No, we have to.
Cover that.
Please, no
Are
more.
we good with that then?
Yeah, so let me just wordsmith here. So stated that there, or maybe stated we should consider defining.
Another definition that falls between home business and construction yard.
Okay.
Something that would fit the small remodeler or the smaller guy. Because I know there's a lot out there that's going on that if people complain they're not a home business maybe anymore, and then boom, do they have to go to light industrial, or is there commercial areas that are available for those sites?
Or would you guys want to even consider, I'm not going to change what you're saying, but we could consider just allowing them in the general commercial. Or do you want to make sure?
Well, but you might not want to allow a heavy construction yard in general commercial, but you might, you know, there should be some fit between somebody that has 50 employees and somebody that has a home business.
Okay.
Because there's a lot of people doing construction
Right,
that maybe are still operating out of their home just because nobody's complained.
right.
And if it starts getting out there, then all of a sudden, where are we gonna stick these people?
Okay.
If they have 4 employees in a small yard, do they need to be in light industrial? Probably not. General commercial might fit better.
Okay,
That's all I was looking at, not the one application that happened, but if we have problems down the road, maybe that definition might be better to have
okay,
something else in between.
okay.
We might have some discussion on that in the future. too,
Sure.
Just so we can get through the minutes here tonight.
Yes.
And not keep our people waiting.
Yep,
But yeah,
we'll amend those.
yeah, amend the minutes. Is there any other
than that,
corrections or?
I would make a motion, we approve the minutes as corrected.
I will second.
Okay, a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Motion carried. You did say aye, right? I
Aye.
thought- Aye,
Sorry.
thank you. Okay, so the motions, or minutes have been approved. We'll go back and discuss that definition at some point in time. The next item on the agenda is Berg Edition, a minor subdivision of the northwest quarter of Section 25, Township 89, R43 west of the 5th Prime Meridian, can't talk tonight, GIS parcel 894-325-1000001, in addition to Woodbury County, Iowa. Do we have the introduction read into the, in the record, please? Someone.
Okay, Mary Berg proposes to subdivide GIS parcel 894-325-10001. And what she intends to do is subdivide the 23.31 acres into 2 lots to meet bank mortgage requirements. And to enable her to get a 30-year loan. Lot 1 will be subdivided into 9.39 acres. Lot number 2 would incur 13.02 acres. The final plat is available on page 10. We looked into the extraterritorial review, and there were no cities within the 2-mile range. The property owners were notified. There were 5 property owners within 1,000 feet. Today, we received a message. The paper before you indicates we haven't heard from anyone, but we did pass that out before you. There was a concern from the neighbor next door, the adjacent property. We have the listing of all the stakeholder agencies that were available, beginning on the bottom of page 6. The county engineer in particular did offer his concerns, as well as a statement as well from the Natural Resource Conservation Services. They just pointed out there's a maintenance agreement on that property, but it's still in Mary Berg's name, so there's no concerns at this point from them. After review in the staff level, we have come to the conclusion that we support and recommend this to go through the minor subdivision process.
Okay, do we have a representative here from Mary Berg?
Yes, the surveyor, Scott Gernhardt, is with us.
Okay. Scott, do you have any comments that you want?
I don't really have anything to add.
Okay, nothing for the record? Okay,
If there are any questions,
nothing out of the ordinary, okay. Do we have any questions or comments from the commissioners?
I do not have any questions or comments. Looks pretty straightforward to me.
Okay,
There's no issue with any service or septic or well?
The well and the septic stay with lot 1 where the house is, so
Do you know what the
there would be no
set?
sharing or anything.
Okay, do you know what the distances are, or there's no encroachment
No,
issues, or?
it's a long ways from that
Oh.
established property line, so.
Okay, that's what I was wondering, if there's a new property line might fall within a distance, but yeah, beyond that, I guess I don't have any questions either.
The driveway issue, but she doesn't plan on doing anything with this other lot at this point.
She plans on keeping the other lot and renting it out just as she has been.
And-
Mark, as of right now,
Right.
the way things are, it's okay, so.
okay. Do you have another question? Go ahead. The Natural Resources Conservation Services, so the USDA NRCS, what is the maintenance agreement? Did they elaborate on that, or Tom, would you know what that is?
I'm
You know.
assuming there's maybe, I don't know if there's some probably some terracing that they may be including in that.
It wouldn't be
Ponds,
CRP at
the
all, would
pond,
it?
Tom,
Well, it could be any structure that was assisted with cost share.
federal funds, or,
And, if it's within the period, but.
okay,
There's no proposal to do anything with that. so.
okay,
And she's gonna deal with that at some point or another. If they decide to tear it out, they're gonna have to.
Right.
deal with that. But
right, okay,
I don't foresee that as an issue.
okay. I just happened to notice that, and I thought.
But that would
okay.
be my guess, that there's some cost share work that was done that's still within the program's timeline, that it has to be maintained.
Or there's penalties involved for
Right.
taking it back out of the program. Okay, just a little clarification there. Okay. Anybody, more questions, comments? Anybody ready to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the minor subdivision.
Okay,
Ms. Berg.
And I'll second that.
okay, with no conditions, just moving forward as is. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? None.
Oh, aye, sorry. Aye, yes.
Stumbling here.
I was
All
waiting
opposed,
for you
same
to say
sign?
all in favor, say aye.
Sorry, did it differently.
Switching it up on them.
I'm still discombobulated by being 10 minutes late. I'm just really upset by that. Okay, so the motion has carried, the subdivision has been approved. We'll go to the next step in our process. Thank you.
Thank you.
You bet. Moving on?
Yeah.
Okay. Public hearing, proposed amendment to the text in the land use summary table of allowed uses, section 3.03-4 in the Woodbury County zoning ordinance 2008. Introduction, please.
So we're in the public hearing now. This is following up to our last zoning commission meeting in which we made the recommendation to add an amendment to the zoning ordinance approved. What is the exact title of that? The summary table, Dan?
The land use summary table for allowed uses in each zoning district, which is section 3.03-4.
Thank you. We were formally tasked by the Board of Supervisors and requested that we do some research and come up with some recommendations on an appropriate place for the sale of fireworks to occur in unincorporated Woodbury County. We held 2 public meetings over the course of the last month. We had one in Mobile and we had one in Salix. They were both held in the evening. At each meeting, we did have people from the public attend and provide comment. We submitted letters requesting feedback from a number of agencies, that we typically would work with, or that would have some relative purpose in making comment, as well as other county departments. And what we've landed on is a general consensus from all stakeholders that consumer fireworks could be sold or should be sold in rural Woodbury County in a general commercial zoning district. So that's what the proposed amendment to the text is for this public hearing. And I would just note that our existing land use summary table already allows the wholesale businesses to operate in limited industrial zoning districts. So if there were somebody who wanted to get into wholesale fireworks, they could already do so in that zoning district. So just for the retail sales, we are recommending an amendment to the text to allow it outright in general commercial.
Okay. And that's a consensus you got from the population then for both the meetings?
Correct.
How did Salix go? I wasn't there. Did you have good attendance?
We did, actually, and there were, I'd say, probably 5 or 6 citizens that attended and that spoke about it. And so one of the comments that was made in terms of, should they be allowed to do it in an agricultural zoning district was no. And that, people pay commercial property taxes in general commercial zoning districts. And so that's where retail and commercial activity should occur because that's what they're taxed on, so. And there were a number of recommendations that we heard from the city of Sioux City in terms of some of the things that they encountered during their first year of having fireworks sales. And it was what they recommended or what they reported was that the main issue that they had were people, sellers, skirting the sign ordinances and trying to place signage where it didn't belong. And so obviously our sign ordinances would remain in effect, and we would uphold those and monitor those at those fireworks sites to make sure that those aren't being violated. And that's been the Department of Transportation. That was their main concern, was signage and keeping it out of the right of way.
Right. Or setting up temporary stands on street corners, that abut.
Yes, and
highways.
both the county engineer and the DOT did not think it would be wise to divert a high volume of retail vehicle traffic into areas that aren't designed for it.
Exactly. Okay, I agree. Okay, I know there was Mobile City Council members at Mobile, and they kind of reiterated the same things. So they go general commercial, if I remember right. Salix, they too, did they have representation from City Council there?
No, their city clerk did attend.
Okay,
The mayor?
The mayor was there.
the mayor was there, okay.
Trying to think of who else.
The fire chief.
And their
Oh,
comments?
can I go ahead? Sorry.
Yeah, no.
No, absolutely, jump in. So their comments are pretty much the same thing then. Are they regulating theirs strictly to general commercial too? I mean, it's kind of interesting to find out what the small towns within our community are doing too in response to these changes. Curious.
I don't know that answer. Sorry.
They said that they haven't received any interest and, but what was been communicated or what has been understood is that if you don't have, local ordinance that prohibits the sale, you have to allow it, but the local zoning, entity, the zoning commission or zoning administrator has discretion on where the sales can occur.
Okay, okay. Gotcha. I know there was one small community that said something that I thought was interesting, and I won't bring it up, but. Okay, so you're asking us to approve the changes to zoning.
Yes,
Anybody-
on page 31, you could see exactly what we're proposing to amend the text in the current zoning ordinance.
Okay,
And it's just a simple line to include fireworks
okay,
and the OK under the general commercial zoning district. And if the commission approves this, then we will move forward and present this to the Board of Supervisors and then begin that process of the public readings and formal adoption.
Does, Board of Adjustment doesn't have anything to do with this typically, do they?
They don't, but we intend to present it to them as well.
Just to get their feedback. Okay, do we have any other questions or comments on this?
I guess, one of the things I was looking at with the, regarding zoning requirements for, areas that bound or border the city limit boundaries.
Where are you at, Tom?
Page 28,
Okay.
third paragraph.
Okay,
I guess, I'm just kind of curious there to require the county, if it's a structure or whatever it may be, then it's gonna have to follow city zoning, even if it's outside the city limits.
So that particular comment that we received from the fire chief was with regards to a residential neighborhood that, it's that weird part on Morningside Avenue where there's like 5 houses that are technically in Woodbury County, and then everything else is around Elk Creek Veterinary Hospital.
Okay.
If you're familiar with that part of town. So there's like just a handful of houses that are residential, and they didn't want the county, like through a conditional use permit or some sort of, they didn't want the county, they basically didn't want to see fireworks being sold in a residential neighborhood.
okay.
But
So
if it's
this,
only allowed in general commercial, it's not gonna be anyhow.
Correct. But
That's
that,
what-
that was the only feedback that they,
Okay, that's what I was kind of wondering. I guess if it's only allowed in general commercial, that won't be an issue
It's a-
anyhow. So
it's a-
it wouldn't be a need to require, I could see some feedback coming negatively that, you know, hey, why, we're in the county, why is the city zoning us now? You know, and not just fireworks or something else down the road. That's the only problem I see arising. But as long as it's, if they were aware that, well, hey, you're residential, you can't have it here anyhow, then it's not an issue. That was the only
Sure.
issue that was being addressed, okay?
Yeah.
So really by allowing it in general commercial, you're eliminating that conflict.
and I think what the perception may have been is that because there is a veterinary office there, which is a commercial business, is that the thought that somebody would be able to, you know,
Okay.
do it. But that's grandfathered in, and there would be no other activity unrelated to that veterinary use that would be allowed.
Out in there,
So,
so it's probably mute.
exactly.
okay, yep, good point.
And then I guess there was another section there. What page were we on? We were talking before about
Oh, 30, that's.
39.
Yep.
Um,
So before we,
oh, okay.
we are asking for this public hearing I guess I'd recommend that we close the public hearing, and then you guys would take action on the amendment to the text, and then we can discuss what we also included for your review as it relates to a standalone fireworks ordinance.
Okay,
And I think that's where you're going.
Okay.
so you want us to go into closed section?
No, close the public hearing,
Close the public
take
hearing?
the action on the amendment.
Okay,
I will
So-
make a motion to close the public hearing.
seconded?
I'll second.
Okay, we are formally closed.
Okay.
And then vote on whether or not you want to make the amendment.
Okay, make the amendment.
I'll make a motion that we make the amendment as stated, written.
Okay.
And so basically, you just need to move it forward to the supervisor.
Yep.
at this point.
Okay, okay, we got a motion, do we have a second?
Second, I will second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, done.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Move that forward and keep you posted on how that works out with the supervisors in that process. So on page 38, you'll see a draft of a standalone ordinance that we are proposing the County Board of Supervisors to adopt. So this is really outside of the zoning commission's purview per se, but we wanted to get you, have you provide review. And all we're doing is defining the county's rules and regulations as it relates to using fireworks and selling fireworks. We also include a provision in there on the display permit. So if there was like, say, the county fair board wants to shoot off a bunch of fireworks, if you're gonna do a big display of fireworks, the law already states that you have to go through the jurisdiction to get that permit. And so we spelled out an application, we drafted an application, as well as a resolution that the County Board of Supervisors would use to approve requests. And we pretty much stuck to what's in the state code, because the Board of Supervisors said they didn't want to amend the time frame in which people can shoot fireworks. So we left that alone. And then all we state is that if you want to sell fireworks retail, it's got to be in general commercial. If you want to wholesale fireworks, it's got to be in limited industrial. And then if you want a permit to do a big display, this is the application.
And the permit for the big display is, I guess, where does that fall in between? Is it a public display, or if a guy just himself goes out and buys $20,000 worth of fireworks to shoot off?
It's.
No, I just I'm over exaggerating.
Yeah,
No, that happens, Tom.
That's a good
It does,
question.
it
Yeah.
is.
Maybe you wanna-
Well, that's for the big display, where the community wants to fire those off for the public.
Okay, so if it's a private individual, they're still not required.
Yeah, there's a difference when you buy those. Like, there's a lot of regulations, in terms of the
What can be
Pyrotechnics
purchased?
FTA, there's, so you actually have to be certified in order to be an operator of a big display. And so and we looked at a number of applications at the county level in terms of what people require. And Woodbury County actually did not have an application. How the board has been operating in years past is, say this group writes a letter, and then the board just says, these guys want to shoot a big display, is that all right? So now I feel like the county is in a much better position to have, to make sure from a liability standpoint and from a safety standpoint that the operator is a licensed operator, that we know when they're going to shoot them, what the flight path of the fire, because we're going to require a site plan.
So really, we're looking for a protocol, just some structure, so folks know which way to go with this, versus the path of requesting it from the Board of Supervisors. And as David was mentioning, looking at the long history of the county, the big fireworks shows that I can think of have been within the cities, within the incorporated areas. I think the Bronson one stands out to me with the 4th of July, but we just want to have that clarity to, if somebody wants to have an event out there in the county, that there's a
pathway forward on it.
Yeah,
Okay.
Dawn did some research through the Board of Supervisors meeting minutes and only found a handful in a, I don't know, 10-year period or something, so.
I was going to say, I mean, how really applicable is this? And we're not overstepping our boundaries at all by going into municipalities that already have their own rules and regulations, because this is relatively new.
No, this is just for unincorporated.
This doesn't apply.
Unincorporated, okay, unincorporated. I just wanted to make sure that's, so everything that you have here for the ordinance is basically a reiteration of everything in the state code,
Yeah.
with the exception of, we're going to have it available only in light industrial.
The
Wholesale.
Wholesale,
Yeah.
wholesale, retail, right, okay.
You've got that listed as limited industrial, should be light industrial.
In our ordinance, I think it's limited industrial is what it's spelled, right?
Light,
We don't have a zoning district of limited industrial.
Okay, okay.
It's just light industrial.
Light industrial.
That's what I'm saying, yeah, I know what you mean or what you're talking about.
And
but-
what we're gonna do is, Barb just proposed an amendment to page 39 on items 1 and 2 under section 5. So under prohibition, it will read, consumer display or novelty fireworks retail sales is prohibited in any other zones other than the general commercial zoning district. And then number 2 will say the wholesale of consumer display or novelty fireworks is prohibited in any other zones other than the light industrial zoning district.
Thanks for doing that.
You bet. No, it reads
Cleans it
better.
up.
It makes it.
Okay.
Okay.
And just while we're right on that section, on 5, when they're referring to conservation areas, I'm assuming that's public conservation areas, correct?
Yes, so actually the state law says that you cannot shoot fireworks off on any property that you don't have permission. You can only shoot it on yours, you can't shoot it on anyone's, that you don't have permission, and you cannot shoot it, like on, on public property. And actually, I had a conversation with the conservation director, and he provided feedback and said, yeah, we don't want people shooting off fireworks in the county parks. County engineer says, yeah, we don't want people shooting off fireworks on county roads and in the right of way, in public places. The Board of Supervisors, so when I spoke with the conservation director, I asked him, he said, well, we don't want them there. I said, well, I'm assuming that's whose decision is that? It's Conservation Board's decision, not necessarily the Board of Supervisors. So it's gonna be their policy or their board's decision to not allow them. We are just confirming that for them.
Yeah, it's gonna be, they're gonna decide the conditions and use of parks. That's why the only reason I was asking on conservation areas is if it's a conservation easement where the landowner still retains ownership.
Okay.
Those situations.
Okay.
Because there are places that happens, but it's not gonna apply to that type of situation, so.
okay. Then I'm noticing there's lots of fees and fines. Are those set by the state, and who gets those?
I wondered that too.
We pulled it right out of the code.
Okay, so who gets them?
The state.
The state, anything
Yeah,
that's collected on behalf?
I think that's regulated as a class 3 misdemeanor, I don't know.
Yeah, so
Okay.
this is being reviewed by the county attorney's office, and we had some discussion, called over the sheriff's office and said, hey, like, what do we do if one of your deputies runs out and cites somebody? And so as long as, I guess the preferred route in terms of penalties is to keep it with the state. And because there's a certain procedure in the court dockets on state fines, rather than doing it locally. And so Joshua Whitman from the county attorney's office is gonna review this, or is reviewing this, and he will make sure that what we're doing is in line with the state code and.
I would presume that the fines, I know, like you said, you're not creating fines. These fines, even prior to the allowance amounts of shooting off fireworks were there, if somebody in Iowa was shooting off fireworks, they were subject to a same misdemeanor with the 200.
Yeah, these are not like civil penalties that we're
Those
making
fines were
up.
there 20 years ago,
Prior
or 10
to.
years ago.
Okay.
It's just they're gonna be applied differently because it's gonna be, there is a window where it's legal.
Right,
And if it's outside that window, then it's gonna be back to being illegal.
Okay.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yes.
okay.
So we're not recommending any new civil citation in which the county would bring that money in or any.
Right, it's,
Okay.
and I guess I had another comment, page 46 or 45, with the liability. I assume the board's gonna establish a higher amount than the 300,000? Or is that,
I wonder that too. I think $1 million would be.
well, 300,000, that's, what, is that your minimum as a property owner?
Limited liability is minimum. Mm-hmm.
Is that
But
right?
that's what I'm getting at, because it says to be determined by the board, but in no event less than 300,000.
I don't know. I was questioning it too.
It seems
I don't have,
awful low, I guess, for a fireworks display, if they're selling or operating the display, that 300,000 doesn't seem to be even close to covering what would be, I mean, as a farm operator, you're sure need 2 million. I mean, it's a lot higher than.
I don't know if we have anything to say about that, but that was my reaction
That's what I'm
too.
saying, it's not our job to say, it's just a comment I would make that that's.
We'll be sure to point that out to the county attorney's office and then maybe even ask Human Resources to get our insurance committee or whatever to review it, our policy.
Yeah, I didn't, and there's probably no state direction there, I didn't know what other counties are requiring, but it just seemed low.
It seemed low to me too.
Even though it's a very short period of time supposedly, you know,
Right.
like maybe a day or whatever.
If a guy's putting up a permanent structure and he's gonna operate a business out of there, and all he's required to have is 300,000.
Oh,
liability.
It's
this
not
one
much.
is just for the display,
Well, is that,
oh,
that's gonna refer to everybody, isn't it?
No, this is just for people that want to shoot the display.
It's just the display, but even there, it still seems low.
I think if it's a public display, there's a lot of people there that would, it seemed low to me. But just to bring it up, just
Yeah,
to question it.
We'll look into it more. And so what will happen then is, we'll, with your, thumbs up, we'll move this forward and, show this to the, Board of Adjustment, let them chew on it a little bit, we'll let them know, of the recommendations that you've made, and then we'll move forward with that to, the Board of Supervisors.
Did they have to do like 3 readings on something like this? Okay. So it could be time consuming anyway?
Yeah.
Okay.
The schedule that we're gonna propose is just to do it every Tuesday during the regular scheduled board meeting
Okay.
and not, recommend, I guess, skipping a reading or whatever.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that. Yeah, because it could be a hot topic because people are going to have questions.
Yep.
Any thoughts? Any other questions? Are you ready to make a motion to send it to the supervisors, move it forward?
Oh, yes, I would absolutely like to make that motion.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second? Okay, okay. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Good luck.
Thank you.
Okay, so with a few minor, I think,
Just recommendation.
yeah, recommendations that were involved in that, keep that in mind. Okay,
I think, I'll use this, are we?
are we on to the next one? Any citizen wishing to be heard? Hearing none, we'll go on to the last one.
For staff, we've just recently had some discussion about the process in which we will communicate to the public permits that have been filed for or applied for out of our department. we are now going to update a spreadsheet in real time. Dawn will update this spreadsheet, and it's kept on the county website. So if anybody wants to find out if a building permit has been applied for, they can go to the website, rather than, I think there's been interest for the department to be informing people if certain permits are applied for by individuals or businesses. And I personally would not recommend that. I don't want to get in the business of feeding information to individuals, you know, that if that makes sense.
So you're just basically gonna post the permit applications that come through and they can view them online?
Yes, and that's what we're gonna default to if someone says, you know, hey, has anybody taken out any permits for, let's say, confinements or, you know, something, and say, well, we keep an updated list of every permit that's been applied for on our website, and you can go there.
So would it have the information, would it have the actual application, or is it just a spreadsheet
Applied
that
for.
says?
And then approved.
It's not the actual application, it's a spreadsheet.
I was,
What information will be available on the spreadsheet then?
It has the date that it was applied for, the landowner's deed, the flood zone,
Permit type.
the fee, the type.
I was wondering
So-
about
so
privacy
limit-
issues.
But it's all public information that's being put on there,
Sure.
there's nothing new.
It is, yeah, it is public information.
Yeah, it has personal numbers and stuff like that, and I just started adding on the address, on there too.
Yes, well, I just, you know, there could be coalitions formed for or against, you know, whatever
Right.
issue. And I want to stay and remain completely neutral. And so that's just sort of been the directive that, and I've had a conversation with the board chairman, county board chairman, and that's what I'm most comfortable with, and I think that's what I think is the most fair. And
Well, and I guess as long as it's, anything you're including on there, if that's all public information already, it's not like you're going out and feeding more information that somebody could get upset that.
no, we had already been doing this, but Dawn was updating them monthly.
But legally, you have to, you have to give that information if somebody wants
Sure.
it. They have to be able to get that, so it's not like you're giving out more information that was already available to
Yep.
the public if they want it.
Nope, I just want people to know that, you know, they can go to the website and click on this thing and that it's updated daily, so.
And I can show you right here on the screen here.
oh, that's a
Um,
good idea.
What you do is you do navigate on the site to, when you get to woodburycounty.gov, you go to the planning and zoning section. You navigate down to where it says permits issued by township. And it would be this bottom link where it says right now, download historical recap of issued permits by township. And on most browsers, it'll open up down there at the bottom. We'll go ahead and click there and open up your spreadsheet application. And this would demonstrate the columns here on the latest permits, but you'll notice right here, the way it is at this point, the townships are these bottom tabs, so you would need to navigate to the respective township. So if I click on Sloan, you'll see what's going on within that region there. And the top columns there, we include the landowner name, the permit number, the fee, the zoning district, our parcel number, as well as some basic descriptions about it. It looks like historically we haven't included the address, but we go by the respective parcel number to identify the location.
I'm noticing exempt.
Ag
Yeah.
exempt.
Ag exempt.
Okay, just making sure I understood. Okay.
And so this will be what is updated on a regular basis and uploaded to the server.
I kind of actually like it. I think it would be interesting.
Yeah, I've been asking for it for years.
Oh,
I want to know what permits are out there, who's asking for them, and where are they? Mhm. Excellent.
Like I said, as long as it's not information that's not already available, you're
Right.
not really doing anything that somebody can get, they might get mad, but the
It's
the
public.
explanation is it's already public information.
Yeah.
We
Yeah,
should
and
put it
I
on
had a
this site.
question about the address, whether we could put the actual street address and all that on there, but if they go to the parcel number, they're gonna be able to.
Right. 'cause you can
Access
go on
that.
and He can.
right.
Site find any parcel number and then it associates it to an address. I guess that's the legal
Yeah.
question you'd have to ask if listing the address is any different scenario, but it,
Did you say you had phone numbers on this? Okay, I was going to say, because
Yeah,
there's
I
a lot
don't
of
think-
phone numbers that are do not call and
well, I don't think the
Yeah.
phone numbers are
public
public
information.
information. I don't think that's,
Some of them are, but some of them aren't.
I guess more than anything, I just don't want, staff being bogged down with,
Chasing down
well, like you
permits,
said, all
it's
you do
right
is
there.
refer 'em to that site. That's it.
Yep.
Go on there.
it's updated real time, so.
Yep. I know there's been multiple times I've called into the office and said, hey, is there a permit out here? Do we have a building permit? Did you know there's building going on out here? What's the construction going on out here? So I do that a
So now
lot.
you can just look it up.
I know, I can just look it up, but I'll probably still
We'll
call.
always do that for you.
Well, Dawn,
so
how much
special.
work is that for you to do?
It's just another step. It doesn't take very long to put that in.
I mean, every day, though, to,
It was a lot smoother, but there was some glitch in the system, so IT kind of had to show me a different way to do it, which is a little slower. But
Senior
it's-
clerk.
I
Well,
got it.
and maybe it's as simple.
Piece of
as
cake.
Instead of saying it's updated daily, it's updated at least week, if you're.
Periodically.
Whatever, yeah.
Right, right.
So somebody doesn't get mad, well, it wasn't on there, and it should have been.
And the date, or that first column, the date, that's the date that they applied. And so, it might not be approved if nobody's in the office to approve it, it might not be approved for a few days. So I don't know if that's something that how important that's gonna be.
who would care about that?
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, like you said, though, the issue is if there's a coalition following something and it's on a hog building and the permit's up there and they applied, that they might get mad if it's a 3-day window, I don't know if they will or
So I
not.
don't know, I could put the date applied and the date approved. I don't put it in there until it's been approved.
Don't we have another date?
So maybe it should.
Yeah.
go
Right
in
here,
there.
completed?
Yeah, and that completed column is the applicant is supposed to call and let us know when they're done with their project, and they
None of them
don't.
do.
They don't. So I could change that completed, I could put.
Yeah, that's really more of an internal thing, so we'll probably change that from the public view. But more than anything, I guess I just wanted to inform the commission that, we just want to walk the line of being neutral and, provide public with the information that is accessible.
Right. Good, thank you.
Yep.
Very good. Okay, any other questions or comment for staff? Other than we're researching wind turbines, small wind turbines for residential
Yeah, is that
use
something
and,
we should discuss?
we actually looked into it for our own property
Uh,
and decided against it, but
I mean, I guess what comes to mind is, windmills.
Uh-huh.
How are they regulated? That are up or rebuilt?
right,
So we're doing research on windmills right now. Currently, Woodbury County doesn't have anything in the ordinance on wind turbines, other than just that little piece.
Well, no, but I guess what I'm looking, the
on the farm,
pump jack.
yeah, on the
They're
farm.
already there, they're already able to be used. They're not addressed specifically. Maybe that's what I was getting at.
Sure. I guess we had some sympathy, or I guess we're sympathetic to that guy's request, because it's, I mean, I get it, and,
Like you said, it's a 45-foot accessory structure. Is there a way to, because at the time, private use wind generator was still thought of when we were writing that as a gonna do a wind tower, but they're gonna use it for themselves and sell it back to the power company,
Right.
which was maybe a 200, 300-foot structure.
Right.
Versus this 20-foot or 30-foot structure, maybe could be used as an accessory structure and still fall within the guidelines of under 45 feet or whatever it is in residential, and the setbacks to the yard, so you're not interfering with the neighbors and,
Yeah, it's, the comment that I'm seeing is when they start entering into the consumer market where you can go buy that off the shelf is a situation where I think more inquiries will happen. So we may have to look at a particular protocol. I did ask the gentleman about the respective sizes in terms of his pursuit of those, and I know he's been going down the research process as well, but he indicated that he could just pick one up off the shelf, and so he had the mindset that this is on the shelf, I should be able to go install that on my property. So when we were discussing the conditional use permit, and when he mentioned those dimensions, he was just very surprised that our ordinance would fit the criteria of course, going through this committee, going through the Board of Adjustment, and notifying all the neighbors
Right.
based off of a consumer-based product of that nature. And so anytime those do enter the store, I do think that places us into a position where we're going to at least have to react to that as more permits come our way.
So you had this as a conditional use in
all districts.
Yeah.
all districts? Is that what I
So
remember?
that was for commercial, we're talking, I think, consumer.
But you also have private wind generation also, I think, is also a conditional use permit.
Click on there was a tab I had up for, under Internet Explorer, Dan, I had a window open.
Okay, you have it open here.
Right.
This is right here, the line that I had the interpretation on in terms of being a private use wind generator, which you'll see that every zoning district it places it in that conditional use. And so at this point, that seems to be the only avenue for us to interpret this.
And that, there again, that might be a way to do it by definition, to not create, still leave that alone, and then by definition, include those as maybe an
Residential?
accessory structure. Something simpler that's, because you don't want, if it does become a big deal, you don't want to be issuing conditional use permits for 30 people just to run a, because he said 400-watt generator, that's small. I mean, you
Right.
can buy it at Menards.
Right, right.
Walk out for $300 or $400 and put that up, so it's not.
Yeah, set it on his
Right.
garage and just run his lights in his garage.
So these real, people have windmills in their yard as decorative items that are almost as big as what this is.
Right,
And like I said, a windmill on a farm that ran a pump jack is
Right.
30 feet high.
Right.
35 feet high. So he's the first guy that's proposed this, I assume, to you, but it could be a big issue down the road. So if we can create some avenue that's a little simpler and a little less.
well, we could just, conditionally
What do
use,
you do with
just waive it.
radio towers? What are they?
Oh, the towers typically go under the conditional use.
Okay, even if it's a private ham radio tower or something? I thought those were allowed under accessory structures for private use. Because there are guys that have either a.
Oh, you were just on it,
yeah,
Dan, scroll down.
RTK station.
This here would be our telecommunications tower section, and really under the ordinance at this point, to put one up, you would go through the conditional use. To alter them, it's okay. It's all about the setup on that. But I do see your point on the other types.
And another thing, I guess I'm just seeing now that we don't have anything we're going to run into probably too is the solar generation panels that aren't addressed have you had anybody even approach on those?
I haven't since I've been around.
That's really not a structure.
Oh, yes,
add it
they
to the
are.
structure.
If they put them as.
They're huge.
Some of the new ones are panels on their own freestanding.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you see whole arrays that, the Conservation Board was going to do it, and it's a whole array. It can be a big structure,
Well, I think
depending
that
on
would
what you want to do
probably
with it.
fit under, electrical energy generation, not including wind.
So then that's only gonna be allowed in, what's the zoning?
General industrial.
General industrial, so it,
That might be interesting, too.
that,
to
that
talk
I could
about.
see being an issue.
Yeah,
down
because
the
I,
road.
I know that people have them.
I see them up around, I mean, there's people that have them, if they're on the house, then
Yeah.
does that not apply?
I don't know. I think, I think we need to,
Address that.
address that.
Cause I know, you go, not necessarily in Woodbury County, but there's a lot of areas you'll drive around and you'll see 20 panels next to a house on a stand. And, I mean, it's becoming more prevalent.
They've definitely become more affordable.
Right,
and-
since the cost just came down and with the grants and funding behind it, that it's open to more people and.
Yeah.
And it should, you don't wanna preclude it from happening if it's a good thing.
Yeah. Well, we'll do that, and we'll do some more research on, on a residential consumer type protocol, and come up with some recommendations. And
Like I said, maybe it's a way, just by definition, you can make it a little easier, just, if this is off the shelf, and it falls within the guidelines of the accessory structure height.
it could be something that's done in sort of the same motion on a definition of a contractor yard, an amendment to that table.
Just to make it easier for you when they come in, they've got an answer that, yeah, you can do this, and if it's under this height, and it's in this, meets these setbacks.
Yeah. Well, and that's, this is good feedback, because in terms of, do we wait until we get to a point in volume of, that we're
I know,
seeing?
is it better to be proactive, or is
Or are we being
it better
more
to wait until
proactive?
you wait until you get complaints?
Yeah.
I think if you see it coming down the pipeline, it makes your job easier if there's
Yeah.
an avenue for Jim to say, yes, you're
Yeah.
putting up a 12-foot tower.
We had the same thing with bees, we had this guy come in that wanted to do some beekeeping or whatever, and we don't have that in our ordinance.
Does that fall under ag, or?
No, because it's not insect's not a livestock, and all we have in there is for livestock production and crop production.
What about
But
home-based
under
businesses, or under truck farms, or under?
They're defined as apiaries, and the more I read about it, the more I realized that there's opportunity for to have a good to have a good set of regulations around it. So because what if you didn't know what you're doing? I just like if you didn't have a water source for them, then all of a sudden you have all these bees that are going over to your neighbor's property and getting water off the animal urine or whatever, and then now all of a sudden, you might have issue with all of a sudden you have all these swarms of bees, every time you go feed your cattle or something, or the kids playing in the front yard with the hose, or so there are setbacks. I've seen jurisdictions where they have setbacks of where you can keep those hives, and then they limit the number of hives that you can have. And then then it gets into like, is this just a home occupation? Well, accessory structure, it's gotta be done inside or inside your accessory structure. Can you, I don't know, I just, we were gonna send this guy down the path of a conditional use permit, cause he said, I'm getting these hives here in the next couple of months. And so Dan and I were like, well, let's get through this fireworks thing, and then we'll try to clean up some of this other stuff, so. But
But really, the hives, because you see them around, but they're just,
And they're usually not on the property owner.
yeah, I've seen them
Property.
in places, and then next thing you know, they're moved or they're gone.
Right, they move
I know
them.
a neighbor of ours years ago used to do it, like you said, you can't really control where the bees go. So so it's kind of a limited,
And technically, you're supposed to be registered with the state and
With the-
with the state of Iowa on. So there's,
even if it's just a hobby, there's
Uh,
a requirement or?
yeah, there are way more requirements than I was led to.
So there is some regulation then through the state, some
Mhm.
forms, okay.
Yeah,
No, there's just no, when you said it wasn't related to ag,
Right.
but the state does have some guidelines and regulation then on
Yeah.
that.
and and it was the first time that this guy called, and I was like really appreciative that he called and asked. But then it was like, the more I read about it, it was like, I don't know if this is a good idea that we just blindly do it. And I know that there are people out there that are probably just doing it without calling. And so this would be a good way to get, make them honest, make an honest operator out of them.
Well, and have the avenue for them to do it.
Yeah, and that's all,
Flat out,
that's,
No, you can't do this. Okay.
no, and that's,
Do it this way, be good about it, it's okay.
we just want to be able to find a pathway for people to be able to do it, but do it in a responsible way that respects your neighbors. So, that's it.
Awesome.
Okay, any other questions or comments from commissioners? No? No. Okay, can we adjourn?
Yes, I would motion for adjournment.
Tom?
I second.
I'm not staying.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.